Dogs are among the most beloved and successful animals on Earth today. Canids of all shapes and sizes can be found on almost every continent and fill a variety of different niches, from small generalists like foxes to large apex predators like wolves. The success of these good boys and girls has only grown after their domestication by humans, often being dubbed as man's best friend. This has further allowed canids to spread to nearly every corner of the globe in the most successful cross-species partnerships in history. In order to fully appreciate the 40 recognized species of canid alive today and understand how dogs were able to conquer the world, we'll have to start from the beginning. Just like cats, dogs are found in the mammalian order of Carnivora, the group that contains most mammalian land carnivores. All carnivorans descend from the clade Carnivora morpha, which first appeared in the Paleocene of North America around 60 million years ago. This order is mainly set apart from other groups of mammals by the presence of carnassial teeth, modified shearing teeth meant to help in consuming flesh. Modern carnivorans can be divided into two distinct suborders: the Feliformia, containing cats, mongooses or mongoose, hyenas, and other carnivorans closer to cats, and the Caniformia, containing dogs, bears, seals, and any other carnivorans closer to dogs. These two suborders are thought to have split from one another soon after the first true carnivorans appeared during the Middle Eocene around 47 million years ago. Caniforms distinguish themselves by mostly being plantigrade, or walking with their toes flat on the ground, and possessing longer jaws with relatively fewer teeth compared to those of the average feliform. Caniformia can be divided into 9 extant families, with canines falling under the family Canidae. This lineage split off from the rest of Caniformia during the later Middle Eocene around 40 million years ago, and is the most basal extant family found within the suborder. The first true canid we know of is the late Eocene genus Prohesperocyon that lived in what is now the state of Texas around 36 million years ago. The world was beginning to change at this time, with the dense forests that once blanketed the world during the early Eocene gradually being replaced with more open grasslands and dry woodlands as the world transitioned into the Oligocene. The planet became drier, with moisture being trapped by the rapid expansion of the first permanent Antarctic ice sheet. These new conditions greatly favored animals able to run, or, in the case of canids, chase down their prey. Canids were, and are, well suited to this lifestyle, as even the earliest members of the family exhibit longer legs that help them lead a more cursorial, or running-based lifestyle. Right at either the end of the Eocene or the beginning of the Oligocene, around 34 million years ago, the descendants of Prohesperocyon thrived in these new environments and experienced their first radiation, splitting into 3 major subfamilies: the Hesperocyoninae, the Borophaginae, and the Caninae. Hesperocyoninae is the first subfamily to have split off during the late Eocene around 36 million years ago that is thought to have given rise to the 2 other, more derived subfamilies within Canidae. The early members of this group, like Hesperocyon itself, had a long, slender appearance that more resembled a civet or mongoose, likely also being omnivorous. They possessed a flexible body, short legs, and a long tail that may have been used to help them live a more arboreal lifestyle. As the subfamily continued to adapt, many members still possessed the general morphology of Hesperocyon, such as the genus Mesocyon that inhabited the western half of what is now the United States during the Oligocene through to the early Miocene. While many of the subsequent Hesperocyonids continued this trend, the group would trend towards a more carnivorous diet, with later genera like Osbornodon having deep, powerful jaws capable of crushing bones to get to that sweet, sweet marrow. Regardless of these new adaptations, Osbornodon is actually the last surviving genus of Hesperocyoninae we know of, fading into extinction by the early Miocene around 15 million years ago, following a long period of decline for this group. The main reason posited for this decline was competition with newly arrived felids and another group of canids that was just better at bone crushing, with them even being informally referred to as the bone-crushing dogs because of how good some were at it, that being the Borophaginae. Borophaginae first appeared during the early Oligocene around 34 million years ago in North America. The earliest genre, such as Archaeocyon and Otorocyon, possessed teeth and jaws that indicated a more carnivorous lifestyle than the contemporary Hesperocyonids. As the group continued to evolve, these carnivorous features would gradually become more and more pronounced, with their jaws becoming larger with more points to attach even more muscle in order to strengthen their bite. This all culminated in the species Epicyon haydeni, the largest known canid of all time, which could have weighed around 100 to 125 kilograms or 220 to 276 pounds on average, but up to 170 kilograms or 370 pounds. These dogs were likely able to reach this massive size by hunting differently than the largest living canids like the gray wolf, which can only grow so large before their method of pursuit predation becomes unsustainable. Though there is still much debate about how exactly, whether it be pounce, pursuit, or predatory behavior not seen by any living species. It should also be noted that these animals were actually quite diverse, filling a wide array of niches through their reign over North America. The bone crushers existed for a mind-numbing 31 million years, only going extinct in the early Pleistocene, with genera such as Borophagus living until just 2.5 million years ago. The extinction of these animals, ironically much like the Hesperocyonids, was most likely driven by competition with cats and the final subfamily within Canidae, that being the Caninae, the so-called true canines. This group is thought to have first appeared during the Oligocene of North America around 34 million years ago, at the same time as the Borophagines. While the bone crushers quickly became the top dogs, through the Oligocene and most of the Miocene through adaptive radiations, the canines stayed mostly small. The oldest member of this lineage we know of is the small fox-like genus Leptocyon, which lived for a staggering 20 million years, LeBron-type longevity, from the early Oligocene to the late Miocene, and could be found throughout North America. This genus also contains Leptocyon delicatus, the smallest known canid of all time, which is thought to have weighed around 400 grams or 0.9 pounds. This genus survived until around 10 million years ago, which is also around the time that the ancestor of all modern canids appeared, with some researchers positing that this ancestor was a species of Leptocyon. The first and most basal grouping to diverge is a group of small canids that was once thought to be a part of the grouping that contains the true foxes. But genetic sequencing indicates that they are separate enough to deserve their own taxonomic tribe apart from all living canids, that being Urocyanini, which split right about when the ancestor of all modern canids appeared during the Miocene around 10 million years ago. This tribe is home to only one genus, Urocyon, that contains two extant species, those being the gray fox and the island fox, both of which being found in the Americas. Even though these canids are referred to as foxes, they technically aren't, as they aren't found in Vulpini, something we'll discuss later in the video. The gray fox is found anywhere with enough cover, from southern Canada all the way down to Venezuela and Colombia in northern South America. While it was once the most common fox, quote-unquote, found throughout North America, human development and habitat destruction have allowed the red fox to supplant it as the most common fox-like canid in many areas. They aren't very large, weighing between 3 to 7 kilograms or 8 to 20 pounds on average. As the name suggests, these foxes have a silvery gray fur that covers most of their body, with black, white, and reddish fur interspersed throughout. These solitary hunters are omnivorous, feeding on rabbits, hares, mice, voles, shrews, birds, carrion, vertebrates, and lots of fruit when available, with some populations having a diet composed of almost 70% plant matter during the spring. Unlike most canids, gray foxes are avid climbers and are specifically adapted to do so, with long, hooked claws that are semi-retractable, allowing them to be kept sharp even when not in use. This allows them to both escape predators and reach arboreal food sources, with tree climbing thought to be a more basal trait within canids. Gray foxes are nocturnal, spending the day in a den made of hollow trees, stumps, rocks, or even appropriated burrows until it is time to hunt. Around 7,000 years ago, a population of gray fox was separated from the mainland and, through speciation, gave rise to the island fox. Unlike their cousins, island foxes have a very limited range, and are only endemic to 6 of the 8 Channel Islands found off the coast of California near Los Angeles County, with each island having their own endemic subspecies. While extremely similar in outward appearance to their mainland cousins, they are much smaller, being about 1/3 the size of the gray fox. This shrinkage is due to a process known as insular dwarfism, where animals cut off from the mainland shrink due to less resources on their newfound island homes. They're also omnivorous, eating fruit, insects, birds, eggs, snails, crabs, lizards, amphibians, small mammals like rodents, and even human garbage. While once on the brink of extinction, conservation efforts have helped these little guys bounce back through captive breeding and ecosystem restoration, being now listed as near threatened by the IUCN with an increasing population trend. Conservation works if you give it some time. Don't let any warmongering oranges in power tell you otherwise. Short after gray foxes diverged, the two other major tribes of Canine appeared around 10 million years ago in the late Miocene. Those being the more basal Vulpini, containing any taxa closer to foxes, which we'll be covering first, and the Canini, containing anything closer to wolves. This coincided with a notable diversification of canines compared to the Borophagines, which were declining in diversity, especially compared to their peak in the Middle Oligocene. The oldest known member of this lineage is the late Miocene genus Metalopex, which lived in western North America, but this genus is seen as sister to Urocyon, which was still considered to fall under Vulpini at the time of Metalopex's discovery, so this placement is tentative and may change with new research. The most basal extant lineage found within Vulpini is thought to have split off around 9 million years ago and contains only one living species, the bat-eared fox of the monotypic genus Odocyon, found in sub-Saharan Africa. These animals have a very poor fossil record, with much of the fossil material attributed to this animal now being considered to be of the closely related extinct genus Proto-Odocyon, found in the late Pliocene to early Pleistocene deposits of India and Tanzania, in which the bat-eared fox shares a clade. The bat-eared fox is found in the grasslands and semi-deserts of eastern and southern Africa, being separated into two disjunct populations that are recognized as their own two subspecies. They're pretty small in overall size, weighing between 3 to 6 kilograms or 6 to 12 pounds, with presumably most of that going to their ears. They are considered the only truly insectivorous canids, with northern harvester termites being their favorite, making up as much as 80 to 90% of their diet when present. When these termites aren't available, they can feed on other termites, other arthropods, and rarely birds, small mammals, reptiles, and even desert truffles. In order to find these morsels in the dirt, the bat-eared fox uses those big ears that can be up to 5 inches long. They are sensitive enough to detect the faint sounds of movement their prey makes while moving underground, also making an effective early warning system for when threats may be approaching. They are quite social animals, most often living in either pairs or small groups depending on the population. Individuals spend a lot of their time together, even engaging in frequent grooming sessions, the cleaning kind, not the other one, that serve to strengthen bonds between group members. While much of their breeding behavior is similar to other related canids, they actually have a reversal in parental roles, with the male taking the most care of the pups rather than the female, with pups having a much better chance at surviving with a male presence. The other basal lineage found within Vulpini is the raccoon dogs of the genus Nycterudes that are thought to have diverged around 7 million years ago. The genus first appears during the late Miocene, around 5.5 million years ago in northern China, making them one of the oldest canid lineages found in the Old World. This genus was able to spread far and wide throughout Eurasia and Africa before their range and diversity shrank into what we see today during the mid-Pleistocene. Depending on your source, 1 to 2 extant species can be found within the genus, those being the common raccoon dog and the Japanese raccoon dog. While we will be recognizing both species, if evidence in the near future definitively proves only one should be recognized, then pretend I said all this about the common raccoon dog. The common raccoon dog is native to most of mainland East Asia, from southeastern Russia and the Korean peninsula down to southeast China and northern Vietnam, with a preference for grassland, shrubland, and forests. But their range has expanded significantly as Europe can't get over its obsession with fur, something these dogs are great at growing. They have been introduced into most of Europe and have become an invasive species. Their size fluctuates based on season, but they typically average between 3 to 10 kilograms or 6 to 22 pounds. Common raccoon dogs can feed on basically anything edible, including insects, small mammals, amphibians, birds, fish, reptiles, mollusks, crustaceans, human garbage, carrion, eggs, fruit, berries, and nuts, adapting their diet as the seasons change. These animals are highly social and form monogamous pairs that often live and forage together, often remaining together throughout the year, but they can live solitary lives if the situation calls for it. Raccoon dogs are unique among canids by being able to enter a state of torpor or hibernation during winter in the colder parts of their range. While sometimes considered a subspecies or population of common raccoon dogs, Japanese raccoon dogs, or tanukis, are considered their own species by some due to different chromosomal, behavioral, and morphological characteristics compared to their mainland relatives. Visually, they are very similar to their relatives, weighing about the same as common raccoon dogs, even possessing the same fluctuations based on season. As the name suggests, they are found throughout Japan, mainly on the 4 main islands of Honshu, Hokkaido, Kyushu, and Shikoku. They share their generalist diet preferences with their cousins on the mainland, allowing them to thrive in Japan's various large cities by eating human refuse. These animals have a very important place in Japanese legend and folklore, being depicted as shape-shifting trickster yokai known as Baka Danuki, known for bringing prosperity, good luck, and mischievous charm. They are also depicted as having absolutely gigantic nuts that they can use to fly, because honestly, why not? The final and most divergent genus within Vulpini is the namesake of the tribe, that being Vulpes, which contains the true foxes. It is thought that the genus, or its lineage, first evolved in North America. The oldest member known, however, is Vulpes rifatae, that lived in Chad around 7 million years ago in the late Miocene, possibly representing the earliest record of any canid in the Old World, though there were likely other species connecting these African animals from their American ancestors if that is where this lineage originated. Today, Vulpes contains 12 extant species: the fennec fox, Blandford's fox, Cape fox, kit fox, Arctic fox, Tibetan fox, Corsac fox, Ruppel's fox, red fox, Bengal fox, pale fox, and the swift fox. True foxes are found in almost every environment, from deserts to tundra, at every altitude throughout the northern hemisphere, from North America through Asia to Europe and Africa, with one even being introduced to Australia. As this is the largest genus covered in this series so far, I wanted to try and mention some common behaviors that try and not repeat myself too often, but these animals are extremely diverse in social organizations that normally depend on population density. Foxes range from solitary to living in small social groups in more densely populated areas consisting of a dominant pair and a few other subordinate adults that are usually related, often being their offspring. Foxes usually form monogamous pairs to breed, with both parents providing care. These animals have a relatively short lifespan in the wild, averaging 3 to 4 years, but some may live to 7 if lucky. Any deviations a single species exhibits from this basic outline will be mentioned during their individual segment, because I don't want to just continue repeating the same thing over and over and over again like I'm just reading the Wikipedia article for each species. But then I struggle to find enough things to say about a certain species because I hate repeating myself, which is the main reason why these videos take so long to write. This is what happens when I try to save time, but enough ramblings about my various inadequacies, on to the foxes. The fennec fox is the smallest living canid, and the most basal extant true fox, being native to the deserts of northern Africa from Mauritania all the way to Egypt and northern Sudan. They're so small, weighing only 1 to 2 kilograms or 2 to 5 pounds. Everything about them is adapted to desert life, with their most prominent feature being those massive ears that they use to better dissipate heat and to locate prey. They also, like sand cats, have dense fur covering the pads of their paws that help shield them from the hot sand they have to traverse in order to acquire their daily bread. They even have larger, denser kidneys than other foxes, which help them filter out waste without using water to expel it. I will say these adaptations are rather common in desert-dwelling canines. Fennec foxes are just the most extreme in their specializations. They're omnivorous, feeding on rodents, lizards, birds, eggs, fruits, leaves, and even roots and tubers, relying on the moisture content of their prey in order to get the water they need when drinkable water isn't available, which is quite often in the wastes of the largest hot desert on Earth. Fennec foxes are primarily nocturnal, using the cooler desert night to hunt while spending the day in burrows they dig in the sand to escape the extreme heat. The Blandford's fox is native most to the semi-arid steppe and mountainous regions of Southwest Asia, from Iran to Pakistan. But they may also live along the coast of the Arabian Peninsula, from the United Arab Emirates and Yemen through Saudi Arabia all the way to northeast Egypt. Unlike the fennec fox, their sister taxon and closest living relatives, they are more at home in rockier areas and are extremely skilled climbers, being able to traverse cliffs and rocks with ease using sharp claws for grip, naked footpads for traction, and long bushy tails to help keep their balance. They're also a bit larger than fennec foxes on average, weighing between 1 to 3 kilograms or 2 to 6 pounds. They're omnivorous, mostly feeding on insects and a variety of fruits, being quite bougie with it, eating capers, dates, olives, melons, and grapes. The Cape fox is found in the arid and semi-arid areas of southern Africa, being widespread in the grasslands, shrublands, semi-deserts, and fynbos of Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa, being the only true fox found in sub-Saharan Africa. They're moderate in size for foxes, usually weighing between 2 to 5 kilograms or 5 to 10 pounds. Their coat is typically silvery gray or black on the back, with light yellow or buff flanks and underside, a reddish head, and a black-tipped tail, providing good camouflage in the open spaces they call home. Seeing as the oldest known member of the genus lived in Africa back in the late Miocene, Cape foxes may, big emphasis on the may, be more basal as they seemingly retain more primitive characteristics like less specialized dentition than other, more derived foxes. These foxes are omnivorous opportunists, mainly feeding on small mammals and insects, but also partaking in birds, small reptiles, carrion, and fruit. While not hunting, which they do at night, they spend the day sheltering in burrows, either digging their own or modifying abandoned burrows of other animals. The kit fox is found in the arid and semi-arid habitats of the southwestern United States and northern Mexico, having a preference for desert scrub, chaparral, and grasslands. It is the smallest canid in North America, weighing only a tiny 1 to 2.5 kilograms or 3 to 5 pounds. They are often compared to fennec foxes, even though they aren't closely related, due to their small size and massive ears, which are also used to dissipate heat. While being considered opportunistic omnivores and scavengers, they are mostly carnivorous, primarily feeding on kangaroo rats, lagomorphs, other rodents, and insects. While kit foxes as a whole are listed as least concerned by the IUCN, the San Joaquin kit fox, the rarer of the two subspecies of kit fox that inhabit the San Joaquin Valley and much of central California, is listed as endangered under the Endangered Species Act. While once being quite common, the subspecies has suffered as constant development has destroyed much of their habitat. Competition with red foxes, predation from coyotes, and mange have also been contributors to their decline. The swift fox calls the short-grass prairies of central North America home, ranging from south-central Canada to the south of Texas in the United States. They are closely related to the kit fox, with some sources considering them as conspecific or belonging to the same species, but molecular analysis says otherwise, as it often does. They're even a similar size, with swift foxes only being a bit larger, weighing between 1.4 to 3.2 kilograms or 3 to 7 pounds. While the two species will interbreed where their ranges overlap, this hybridization is quite limited in the grand scheme of things as the two species inhabit and are adapted to different habitats. As omnivorous opportunists, they feed on a wide variety of food items including rabbits, mice, ground squirrels, birds, insects, other arthropods, lizards, amphibians, fish, eggs, grasses, and fruit, among others. While swift foxes nearly became extinct in the 1930s due to persecution campaigns, intensive conservation efforts and reintroductions have helped the species recover and recolonize roughly half of their former range, now being listed as least concern by the IUCN. As the name suggests, the Arctic fox is found throughout the coldest regions of the Northern Hemisphere, from Greenland and Canada all the way through Alaska and Russia to Northern Europe. They are pretty large in true fox terms at their largest, weighing between 1 to 10 kilograms or 3 to 20 pounds, with weights fluctuating for reasons we'll get into in a bit. They are most often found in tundras where the most prey can be found, at least during the summer. They venture onto the sea ice in winter to travel between hunting areas, scavenge the carcasses of marine animals that wash ashore, and even follow polar bears to try and scavenge off their kills. They are well adapted to these cold conditions, sporting a thick coat of bright white fur that provides some of the best insulation of any mammal, even using those fluffy tails as blankets when hunkering down during blizzards. They then shed this fur in the spring to reveal a grayish-brown undercoat which they rock until their winter coat grows back during autumn. They also have a lower surface area to volume ratio compared to other foxes, which better allows them to conserve heat by giving that heat fewer points where it can escape. With a more compact body shape, shorter muzzle, shorter legs, and smaller ears, Unlike most members of their genus, Arctic foxes are almost exclusively carnivorous. They feed on lemmings, voles, other rodents, lagomorphs, birds, eggs, seal pups, fish, and carrion. They are able to survive harsh winters or food shortages by either caching uneaten food or building up fat reserves or winter-proofing in a way other foxes cannot, sometimes bulking and increasing their weight by as much as 50% in a single summer, which is why their weight range is so massive compared to other members of the genus. The Tibetan fox is endemic to the grasslands and semi-deserts of the Tibetan and Ladakh plateaus that span from central China to northern India. They are a tiny bit larger than the closely related Arctic fox on average, with adults weighing usually between 4 to 6 kilograms or 8 to 13 pounds. While Tibetan foxes are quite famous online for their square-shaped faces that make them look like you just told them a bad joke and they are not impressed, their broad head, flat face, and narrow eyes may actually be adaptations to navigating the strong winds that often blow across the plateaus. Small ears, compact bodies, and a dense coat of reddish-tan fur help conserve heat at the high elevations they call home. Like their cousins to the north, they are almost exclusively carnivorous, primarily feeding on plateau pikas, but also rarely munching on rodents, marmots, woolly hares, rabbits, small ground birds, lizards, and carrion. Unlike most other foxes, Tibetan foxes are diurnal, as the pikas they feed on are also active during the day. Some foxes form commensal relationships with brown bears during pika hunts. The bear digs out the pikas, which are then grabbed by the fox as they try and escape the bears. The Corsac fox is found in the steppes and semi-deserts of Central and Northeastern Asia, ranging from the Caucasus and Kazakhstan all the way to Mongolia and Northeast China. They are rather small, weighing between 1 to 4 kilograms or 3 to 9 pounds. Corsac foxes share many physical adaptations with the Arctic and Tibetan foxes, like a thick coat of fur and compact frame meant to conserve heat, but also have some distinguishing features like those large ears that are great for dissipating heat during the hot summers they face in their desert homes. While their diet varies throughout their range, something you could say for every fox, but I digress, these nocturnal nomads are predominantly carnivorous, feeding on voles, gerbils, jerboas, hamsters, ground squirrels, pikas, insects, hares, and carrion. Unlike other foxes, they do not defend a set home range and are highly migratory, especially during the winter when the snow is too deep for them to hunt effectively and they are forced to travel south. Corsac foxes are much more social than other foxes, likely due to not needing to defend set territories from competitors, forming small packs that share communal dens known as Corsac cities, and sometimes even hunting together, something rather uncommon in foxes. The Rupel's fox can be found in the deserts of North Africa all the way to Central Asia, ranging from Mauritania and Morocco to southern Afghanistan and southwest Pakistan. Taxonomically, they are the sister species to the red fox, which makes sense when you compare the two species side by side. Even though they are closely related, Rupel's foxes are much smaller, weighing between 1 to 4 kilograms or 2 to 8 pounds. These guys can be distinguished from their larger relatives by those giant ears, common among desert-dwelling foxes, used in dispelling excess heat and finding prey digging in the sand. Returning to the omnivorous foxes, the diet of these foxes depends on whatever is locally available. They feed on insects, small mammals, lizards, birds, grasses, succulents, and even human garbage. The red fox is the most recognizable of the true foxes, and one of the most recognizable animals on Earth. And it's easy to see why, because these things are everywhere, with over 40 currently recognized subspecies, being among the most widely naturally distributed members of Carnivora. They can be found throughout most of the Northern Hemisphere in North America, Europe, and Asia, with native populations even in North Africa. They have also been introduced to Australia, where they have thrived and become an extremely destructive invasive species. Red foxes are the largest member of vulpes, reaching their largest sizes in more northerly ranging subspecies. But overall size can vary greatly, with most subspecies being smaller than this, with sizes ranging between 2 to 14 kilograms or 4 to 31 pounds. Despite their common name, red foxes come in a variety of color morphs, like the partially melanistic cross fox or the fully melanistic silver fox, though the red morph is still the most common. As is normal with an opportunistic omnivorous animal with such a massive range, they aren't fussy eaters. They feed on mice, rabbits, fruit, birds, ground squirrels, grasses, hamsters, sedges, gerbils, marmots, voles, other smaller carnivorans, and many, many, many other things. These foxes are quite territorial in both intra and interspecific manners, defending their home ranges from other red foxes and often killing or at least inconveniencing smaller predators when they can, including other fox species like Arctics and Corsaics where they're sympatric. Red foxes are also quite unique for being able to not only survive, but thrive in cities and urban environments, not just in farmland. This ability to survive near humans have caused these animals to feature very prominently in the folklore and legends of many cultures that they live alongside, commonly being represented as a cunning trickster that is sly as a fox. The last two species in Vulpes are not included in any of the phylogenetic analysis or papers I could find, so I had to tack them on in alphabetical order like the PS at the end of a letter. I'd hate to make guesses based on things like anatomy because that has burned scientists so many times before the luxury of genetic analysis became widespread. I just had to mention that for my own sanity. I'm a perfectionist to say the least. The Bengal fox, also known as the Indian fox, is found in the semi-arid bush and short grassland and scrub habitats of the Indian subcontinent, chiefly in India and Pakistan, but also sneaking into Nepal and Bangladesh. They do generally avoid habitats with denser vegetation, preferring areas with relatively low rainfall. They are moderately sized foxes, weighing between 1.5 to 5 kilograms or 4 to 10 pounds. Bengal foxes actually share a very similar skull structure to the Cape fox, but this may just be an example of convergence rather than an indication of close relations, because why wouldn't it be? They're omnivorous opportunistics, feeding primarily on insects, mice, rats, gerbils, birds, reptiles, and fruit. The pale fox is among, if not the most enigmatic and least studied species of fox, mostly because of their remote habitat, being found in the Sahel region of northern Africa, the transition zone between the more humid savannas to the south and the Sahara Desert to the north. Their range spans across Africa, from Senegal and Mauritania all the way to Eritrea and northwest Ethiopia. These guys are on the smaller side, weighing between 2 to 4 kilograms or 4 to 8 pounds. They share many traits with other desert foxes, like the large ears to dissipate heat, a sandy brown coat to help them with camouflage, and a dense fur that protects the soles of their feet from the hot sand. They're omnivorous, feeding on various birds, reptiles, insects, small mammals, fruit, seeds, and carrion. Like every desert-dwelling canine, they are nocturnal, spending the day in burrows before emerging to hunt during the much cooler night. Finding photos of these guys in their natural habitat that also met my insane standards was like finding a needle in a haystack. Hey, can we get more photographers out there, please, in case I ever remake this video down the line? Thank you! The Canini is the third and final main tribe of extant canids. This grouping is thought to have emerged in North America sometime during the late Miocene, between 9 to 10 million years ago, with the oldest known true member of this grouping and suspected common ancestor of all extant members being the genus Eucyon that appeared around 10 million years ago. This coyote-sized omnivore was very successful, being among the few North American mammals to migrate across the Bering Land Bridge into Eurasia around 6 million years ago, and having several species recognized as they continued to diversify. Today, this tribe consists of two main subtribes thought to have split from each other anywhere between 9 to 7 million years ago, those being the Cyrtocyanina and the Canina. The Cyrtocyanina are an odd bunch to be sure. While they're often described as being fox-like in appearance and behavior, they're actually more closer to the wolf-like canids than to the true foxes. While the history of this grouping is poorly understood, making this another paragraph that could become outdated in the near future, they most likely originated in North America, probably around 9 million years ago, with the oldest known member in the fossil record being Cyrtocyan that appeared around 6 million years ago. While all living members are found in South America, all descend from ancestors that evolved in North America. These animals could only make their way into South America after the formation of the Isthmus of Panama during the Pliocene around 3 million years ago. These dogs, along with many other species, migrated between continents in an event known as the Great American Interchange, which I also covered last video. Upon arrival to South America, these canids received very limited competition in their new home and rapidly diversified into a variety of forms that fill a variety of niches. The tribe is home to 5 extant genera separated into 2 branches. The first branch contains 2 genera more closely related to each other than to the other members of Cyrtocyanina that both have 1 extant species apiece, the bush dog of the genus Spethos and the maned wolf of the genus Chrysocyon. It is honestly bizarre how different these animals are. being complete opposites, while being each other's closest living relatives, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The bush dog is found in fragmented populations throughout the lowland forests and wet savannas of Central and South America, ranging from Costa Rica and Panama all the way through Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, and a tiny smidge of northeastern Argentina. They are well adapted for their forest homes, having low-to-the-ground, stocky bodies and short legs to more easily weave through the dense undergrowth. They are among the smallest pack-forming carnivores, weighing between 5 to 8 kilograms or 11 to 18 pounds. They even possess webbed paws in case they have to traverse the wetter parts of their range while hunting, being amazing swimmers. These guys are diurnal carnivores, being the most hypercarnivorous of all South American canines, typically hunting large rodents like pacas, agoutis, acuchis, shushnell, and capybaras, but will go after larger prey like armadillos, peccaries, rheas, and one large pack even reportedly taking down a tapir, though hunting prey of this size is most likely extremely rare. They can also eat fruit when it is abundant, though diet can vary wildly with whatever the most common food source going is. While they can hunt alone, this is rare, as bush dogs normally live in small packs, made up of a mated pair and their close relatives, mostly their offspring. Much of their wild behavior is still unknown, as these dogs prefer habitat generally inaccessible to humans, even avoiding roads and trails, which makes them even harder to track down. These hide-and-seek Olympians are so elusive that for a while, we thought that they had been extinct, as the first evidence of their existence found by scientists were bones discovered in a Brazilian cave. The paleontologists who found them believed them to belong to an extinct species before living specimens were later found. This puts bush dogs into a rare classification of animals known as Lazarus taxon, a species or taxonomic grouping once thought extinct due to an absence from the fossil record, which implies extinction, only to appear later either via younger fossils or living representatives, with the most famous example of this phenomenon being coelacanths, which I did a video about, or at least the West Indian Ocean coelacanth. The maned wolf, aka me in dog form, are also weird as hell, being adapted to open and semi-open habitats like grasslands and savannas that are common in Central South America, with this species being found from Brazil all the way to scattered populations in Argentina and Uruguay. Those long, stilt-like legs they have, which help them see over tall grasses, make them the tallest extant canid and largest native to South America, as they stand almost a meter tall at the shoulder. But they are not the heaviest canid, weighing between 20 to 30 kilograms or 44 to 66 pounds. This is because they are much more slim and narrow, as they do not hunt large prey like other large canids. These guys are also differentiated by their stunning coat of golden red fur and a long, black mane covering their backs that gives them their common name. Maned wolves are possibly the most omnivorous canid in terms of natural diet, feeding on fruit, rodents, rabbits, bulbs, birds, eggs, reptiles, tubers, roots, fish, gastropods, and insects. Their most common food item is the aptly named wolf apple, a tomato-like fruit that depends on maned wolves as seed dispersers. Maned wolves are also bizarre in how solitary they are, being among the most independent of all canids, being the only canid the term lone wolf actually applies to if you're a real knower. They spend most of their lives alone, only being social to mate and when mothers raise their pups. They also don't vocalize like most canids either, instead making a powerful roar bark to communicate with each other over long distances. Though most of their communication is done through a repertoire of scents, as with most canids, primarily using urine and feces like me. Their urine is especially pungent, having a similar smell to a certain leafy substance that is rolled up and smoked with the boys, due to a chemical compound called 2,5, I ain't pronouncing that, dimethylpyrazine. Took me a minute there, but we got there. It smells so much like Reggie that in 2006, police were called to the Rotterdam Zoo to investigate reports of a strong smell of Mary Jane, only to find out that someone called the cops for the aroma of wolf piss. Beyond the two extant members of this branch, there is one extinct species worth mentioning that lived up until the late 1800s. Dusicyon australis, the aptly named Falkland Islands wolf or warer, that inhabited the Falkland Islands off the coast of Argentina. It is thought to have split from its mainland ancestor, Dusicyon avis, around 16,000 years ago, but it is still unclear whether these insular individuals naturally colonized the island or were brought over by people prior to the arrival of European settlers. Without any native rodents on the islands, these animals likely subsisted on seashore scavenging, ground-nesting birds, seal pups, and even insects. They were extremely tame, as they never had to evolve along humans to see them as a threat, making them easy targets for humans who either wrongly perceived them as a threat to livestock or for their fur, with this continuing until the last one is thought to have died in 1876. While this is a sad tale, it is one we can learn from in order to protect the species we still have before it is too late, because extinction truly is forever. No amount of genetic tampering or chimeric hybrid creation will bring back any of the species we've already lost. After the branch, the two most recognizable members of this subtribe for those watching this outside of South America can be found, we can find the other branch of South American canine that contains the other three genera. Two of these three are considered more basal and also only have one extant species each, the short-eared dog of the genus Atelocynus and the crab-eating fox of the genus Cerdocyon. The short-eared dog is found in the dense forests of South America, being found from Ecuador to central Brazil. They are middle of the pack, in terms of size, weighing between 9 to 10 kilograms or 20 to 22 pounds on average. Short-eared dogs possess a unique appearance and are specialized for a semi-aquatic lifestyle, sporting partially webbed paws, short limbs, and dense, bristly fur ranging from reddish-gray to black in color. Their head and facial features are also quite distinct, with a long, fox-like muzzle and those small, rounded ears that give them their common name. These guys are primarily carnivorous, feeding on fish, insects, small mammals, birds, crustaceans, frogs, reptiles, and even a bit of fruit when given the chance. Short-eared dogs are solitary animals, not forming packs and only interacting with other short-eared dogs during the breeding season or when rearing young. We know barely anything about their behavior in the wild beyond the basics, because not only do they live in some of the most inaccessible habitat on land, but they also prefer areas with little human disturbance. The crab-eating fox is found in the drier habitats, like savannas and woodlands, in two disjunct populations, one being in northern South America and the other stretching the eastern coast of Brazil down to Uruguay and Argentina, with the populations being separated by the dense forests of the Amazon basin. They are very similar in size and shape to foxes, weighing between 4 to 8 kilograms or 10 to 17 pounds, hence being called a fox even though they aren't closely related to true foxes of the genus Vulpes. They can vary in fur color, mainly sporting a grayish-brown coat with yellowish patches on the head, ears, legs, and tail. They get their common name from searching for crabs on muddy floodplains during the wet season, but will also eat insects, rodents, birds, eggs, lizards, fruit, and carrion. Crab-eating foxes are nocturnal, being most active during dusk, while spending most of the day in burrows they either take after being abandoned by other animals, mostly armadillos, or ones they've dug themselves, with these behavioral trends holding true for most small canid species already discussed. They are also more opportunistic than many members of this clade, as they are better able to take advantage of land disturbed by human activity, much like the unrelated red foxes, coyotes, and golden jackals found in the northern hemisphere. Like the crab-eating fox, the members of the genus Lycalopex are often referred to as foxes, even though they aren't found within the Vulpini tribe, just evolving similar features to the true foxes because convergent evolution likes to torment us like a jealous ex. With this, I have seen another common name the animals of this genus go by that I will be using in this video, that being Zorro, which is Spanish for fox. I know it ain't much, but it's something. Lycalopex is home to 6 extant species: the hoary Zorro, Cichuran Zorro, Darwin Zorro, Pampas Zorro, Gray Zorro, and the Culpeo. Like the cats of the genus Leopardus covered last episode, the members of this genus have adapted to most habitats that South America has to offer, and have adapted to fill a variety of niches, generally only avoiding the denser tropical forests of the Amazon basin. Socially, they are either solitary or live in monogamous mated pairs that defend a set territory and cooperate in raising their young. The hoary Zorro, an extremely unfortunately named canid to say the least, is endemic to the grasslands and open regions of south-central Brazil like the Cerrado and more open areas of the Pantanal. They are among the smaller members of their genus, weighing between 3 to 4 kilograms or 6 to 9 pounds. They get that name not from their sexual proclivities, but from their coat of fur, which is the color hoar or grayish-white, with reddish-brown and black areas sprinkled in. They are nocturnal and have a diet mainly composed of small invertebrates like termites, beetles, and grasshoppers, complemented with rodents, birds, and fruit when insects aren't as common. The Sachuran zorro inhabits the arid environments of southwest Ecuador and western Peru, getting its common name from the Sechura Desert where it is first identified. They're relatively small, weighing between 2 to 5 kilograms or 5 to 10 pounds, being just a tiny bit larger than their Brazilian relatives on average. Sachuran zorros are nocturnal and feed on a variety of foods that change depending on season and local habitat, eating insects, fruits, seeds, rodents, birds, eggs, and carrion. They are able to survive on an entirely herbivorous diet if need be, and don't need to drink for long periods of time by getting the moisture they need from their food. They're also important seed dispersers, being just as, if not more important than the more specialized herbivores they share their ecosystem with. The Darwin zorro has among the most limited ranges of any canid, with these animals being found in a couple of spots on mainland Chile and Chiloé Island, only living in forests much like the cod covered last video. They are also pretty tiny, weighing between 1.5 to 4 kilograms or 4 to 9 pounds, being among the smallest canids in South America by average size. Darwin zorros are very unique compared to the other members of Lycalopex, having shorter legs, a broader head, and a darker coat of fur to help them hide from both prey and predators on the forest floor. These forest homes provide them with plenty of food, including mammals, reptiles, invertebrates, fruits, berries, seeds, birds, amphibians, and carrion. They are currently listed as endangered by the IUCN, with less than 1,000 mature individuals thought to be left, being most threatened by domestic dogs and the diseases they spread like rabies and canine distemper. Habitat destruction and persecution from humans sure don't help their situation in the slightest. The Pampas zorro is found in southwestern South America, inhabiting the Pampas grasslands that give them their common name, from Brazil and Bolivia to central Argentina. While they resemble a smaller version of a colpeo, weighing between 2 to 8 kilograms or 5 to 18 pounds, they can be differentiated by a proportionally wider snout and different coloration on the head and neck. These fellows are potentially the most omnivorous member of this genus, with a varied diet, being able to feed on birds, rodents, hares, fruit, carrion, insects, lizards, snails, and the eggs of ground-nesting birds. The gray zorro, or chila, is found along the length of both Argentina and Chile, comprising stripes on both sides of the Andes Mountains, inhabiting a variety of habitats from warm, arid scrublands to the north to the dry, cold Patagonian steppe to the south. They weigh between 2 to 6 kilograms or 5 to 12 pounds. Even though gray zorros technically share the same common name with the gray fox of Eurocyon, they are only distantly related, with any similarities being a result of convergent evolution because nature likes to exploit humans and their silly little assumptions. Their diet consists of rodents, birds, insects, eggs, reptiles, fruit, and carrion. The colpeo, or Andean zorro, is found along the entire western coast of South America, from Ecuador and a tiny bit of Colombia all the way to the southern tip of Argentina and Chile. Colpeos are the largest member of this genus and the second largest canid native to South America, weighing between 5 to 14 kilograms or 11 to 30 pounds. In appearance, colpeos are very similar to the red fox, only being larger and more robust in comparison, with a rusty coat of grizzled fur to help them brave the many biomes they inhabit. They are adaptive omnivores, with a diet consisting of rodents, rabbits, birds, lizards, plant matter, and carrion, basically whatever's going. There was also once a strange offshoot, a now extinct domesticated form of colpeo, or some colpeo-like animal, called the Fuegian dog. They appear to be a hybrid between colpeos and domestic dogs that first appeared before Europeans first contacted the indigenous peoples they lived alongside. The Fuegian dog disappeared around the beginning of the 20th century, coinciding with the genocide of the native Selknam people that they lived with by European colonists. The second, more widespread and more recognizable branch found within Canini is the subtribe's sister to the Cyrtocyanina, the Canina. Often dubbed the wolf-like canids, it is thought that all members descend from the Euscion complex of species, much like the Cyrtocyanina, but all extant forms descend from ancestors in Eurasia and Africa rather than North America. Before getting into the extant forms we still share the planet with today, there is a quote-unquote colossal extinct canid I think should be mentioned, that being the dire wolf. Historically, the dire wolf has been thought of as a close relative to the gray wolf in the same genus of Canis as Canis dirus, based solely on morphological characteristics, only just being bulkier to hunt the larger prey of the Pleistocene when it lived. However, Recent genetic analysis has found the dire wolves are only distantly related to gray wolves, being part of an early divergence within Canine, even getting assigned a new genus in Evolutionary. While it is still unclear what these animals evolved from, it is probable that this lineage evolved in North America rather than Eurasia, as is thought with the members of Canis, like the gray wolves and coyotes that still inhabit North America, after migrating back across the Bering Land Bridge sometime during the Pleistocene. Unfortunately, these animals are very much still extinct, despite what a certain biotechnology company might tell you. As I made a video on this already, I'll try to quickly say how stupid these claims are. The dire wolves that Colossal have engineered are as much dire wolves as you and I are, that being not one bit. Colossal went off the morphological definition of a species, with their dire wolves being genetically modified gray wolves without a lick of actual dire wolf DNA in their systems. This becomes even more frustrating when you realize the last 40-something years of taxonomic and genetic research has been challenging this kind of thinking, with morphology now taking more of a backseat to genetic analysis when building the tree of life. Whoever doesn't view it this way should be slapped with a large fish, preferably an adult Atlantic salmon, but don't be too picky, if they spread misinformation like this again. While once also considered members of Canis like the dire wolf, recent phylogenetic studies released in 2019 have found that the two species of African jackal are actually more distant to Canis than previously assumed, making them the most basal living members within Canina that diverged around 5 million years ago. This has since been backed by the more recent fossil discovery in Africa of Eusyon khoikhoi, a medium-sized canid native to the woodland and savanna ecosystems of Pliocene South Africa around 5 million years ago. It is thought that these animals are either closely related to or are the direct ancestor to the members of the genus Lupulela, the African jackals. Today, this genus contains two species, the black-backed jackal and the side-striped jackal. These jackals either live alone or in small family groups led by a monogamous breeding pair, with other members of the pack often being older offspring that help in rearing new pups. The black-backed jackal, like the bat-eared fox weirdly enough, are also found in two disjunct populations in the open areas of eastern and southern Africa respectively, with the two populations also being listed as two different subspecies. They aren't very large, being quite fox-like even if they aren't closely related, with slender bodies and large ears, being more built for speed and agility as they can't directly compete with some of the larger members of Africa's predator guild. As their name suggests, they are easily distinguished by the black and silver fur on their back. They are omnivorous, but more carnivorous than side stripes, feeding on rodents, hares, carrion, birds, eggs, lizards, snakes, invertebrates, fruits, and berries. While they usually hunt smaller prey alone, pairs can hunt together to bring down larger animals like impala and gazelle calves. They can also survive on coastlines of the Namib Desert, feeding on marine bird and fur seal colonies or scavenging on any carcasses that wash ashore. These jackals are cathemeral, being active during both day and night, utilizing a series of high-pitched yelps and howls that families use to communicate with each other and any other jackals in the area. The side-striped jackal has a larger and more northerly range of the forested and denser areas of central and southern Africa compared to their back-blacked brethren. They can be found along the Sahel from Senegal and the Gambia, east to Ethiopia, down to Mozambique, Eswatini, and a tiny portion of South Africa. Side stripes tend to be the larger of the two African jackal species on average, often aggressively driving blackbacks out when encountered where their ranges overlap. They can be told apart from their black-backed cousins by having a gray coat of fur around the body rather than just the top of the back, with a silver stripe running along the side of the animal. They are also less carnivorous, being omnivorous with a generally unfussy diet, feeding on invertebrates, small mammals, carrion, fruits, birds, reptiles, and maize, not targeting any prey items bigger than themselves. Side stripes aren't as confrontational as other canids regarding other side stripes, with pairs using vocalizations and marking territorial boundaries to avoid conflict. Around 5 million years ago, around the same time as Eusyon khoikhoi was roaming Africa, the oldest species in the genus Canis was thought to be emerging in North America. The oldest Canis species we know of is Canis lepophagus, a superficially coyote-like canid that was once thought to be a close relative of the modern coyote. But these animals also possess more basal features in their skeleton that indicate that it was just an early member of Canis with no modern relatives. Genetic analysis has revealed that the members of Canis diverged from their closest modern relatives anywhere between 5 to 3.5 million years ago, with these modern relatives being the African painted wolf of the genus Lycaon and the dhole of the genus Kuon. It is thought that both of these animals descend from Xenocyon, which first appeared around 3.8 million years ago in what is now China. Xenocyon is the first known member of Caninae that shifted towards a larger body size and adaptations for hunting in packs over long distances like the top dogs around today. While seemingly an important animal in the history of canid evolution, Xenocyon has an extremely confusing taxonomic classification, with a history arguably as convoluted as the Pseudolurus grade covered last video. Historically, it has been heavily debated whether these large hypercarnivores are just a subgenre within Canis or Lycaon. More recent evidence has placed these animals in their own genus. Regardless of taxonomic classification, these animals were very successful, ranging from Africa throughout Eurasia, with one species even making it into North America just before the direwolf had even evolved. The last Xenocyon vanished during the Middle Pleistocene around 600,000 years ago, setting the stage for new canid predators, even their presumed descendants, to take over. The African painted wolf was once widespread throughout sub-Saharan Africa, but their range has been massively fragmented by human activity, now having scattered populations, with most viable populations being found in East and Southern Africa. These pooches are the largest of the African canids, weighing anywhere between 18 to 36 kilograms or 40 to 80 pounds. They get their binomial name and common name that I use, and you should too, from their mottled coats that have irregular patches of black, yellow, and white fur. African painted wolves are specialized pack hunters, preying primarily on ungulates and other mammals like kudu, gazelle, impala, bushbuck, wildebeest, warthog, reedbuck, cob, lechwe, springbok, dike-ear, dik-diks, hares, zebra, and even buffalo calves during the dry season when the herds are smaller and less protected. Painted wolves possess what might be the most complex social structure of any canid, with packs of usually 6 to 12 adults maintaining strict, non-aggressive hierarchies with high levels of cooperation in every aspect of life, from hunting to rearing young. Packs are led by a dominant monogamous pair that are normally the only ones that breed, with the rest of the pack pitching in to help raise pups. They also display a range of other behaviors unique among canids. They are currently listed as endangered by the IUCN, being foremost threatened by habitat fragmentation, centuries of human persecution, and disease outbreaks. Made a really good video about them if you want to learn more. Had to limit myself with how much detail I could put in this section because of how interesting they are. The dhole, or Asiatic wild dog, like their painted cousins, were once more widespread, being found throughout the forests and grasslands of Asia, from Russia all the way down to Indonesia. But these relatively lesser-known canids now only inhabit 25% of their former range. Dholes are smaller than their African cousins, weighing between 10 to 21 kilograms or 22 to 46 pounds. They sport a coat of reddish fur with a white underside and a darker tail. They are mainly carnivorous, feeding on deer, boar, buffalo, caprids, hares, rodents, langurs, tapirs, ovids, and muskedeer, among others. To hunt the larger animals they often hunt, they depend on the power of the clan and use teamwork to exhaust and bring down bigger targets. Clans are typically composed of 5 to 12 adults, but this can vary in different parts of their range. Dholes are just as social as their painted relatives and have a similar social structure, with clans led by a dominant monogamous breeding pair. This pair can be hard to recognize, as dholes rarely engage in dominance displays, though some clan members will show more submissive behaviors towards the dominant pair. These dogs are much less territorial in general, as seasonal food scarcity isn't much of a problem for them, with pups easily moving from one clan, often joining another once they reach sexual maturity. This cooperation and social cohesion has allowed dholes to compete with leopards and even tigers in extreme instances, though direct competition is mostly avoided through niche partitioning, and dholes often live in smaller packs in tiger-dense areas. Dholes are among, if not the most vocal canids, relying more on auditory signals for clan cohesion compared to gray wolves. They keep in touch with each other on hunts by whistling, perfect for not alerting prey when stalking. Sadly, dholes are listed as endangered by the IUCN, with depletion of their prey being the greatest factor in their continued decline. Habitat loss, persecution, disease, and competition with other predators for already limited prey are also major threats they face. The oldest true, unequivocal, no takesies-backsies member of the genus Canis is the enigmatic Canis chicliensis, which appeared in China during the mid-Pliocene around 4 million years ago. This is then followed by canids more well represented in the fossil record, like Canis etruscus and Canis arnensis of early Pleistocene Europe around 1.9 million years ago. The appearance of these two coincides with an explosion of diversity within Canis around 1.8 million years ago, known as the Wolf Event, associated with the expansion of continental glaciers that trapped moisture, causing less precipitation across the globe. This led to the spread of open grassland habitats like the Mammoth Steppe that spanned across the northern hemisphere that allowed these cursorial animals to thrive. Today, there are 8 broadly recognized extant species found within Canis, those being the golden jackal, Ethiopian wolf, African golden wolf, coyote, red wolf, Algonquin wolf, and the gray wolf. While there is extreme variation and flexibility in social organization, often depending on food availability, the basic social unit is a dominant breeding pair, with subsequent pack members often being the offspring of that dominant pair that help in hunting and rearing their younger siblings. After mentioning this behavior of older offspring staying with their parents to help raise younger generations, you might be wondering why so many social canids engage in this behavior. Wouldn't it be better for these young to set out on their own once they reach maturity? The answer in many cases is actually no. Staying with your family for longer can actually be quite beneficial, even if you delay your own reproductive success, the biggest of which being that you don't have to risk creating your own territory that might be claimed by other families already. You may even be able to inherit your parents' territory once they die. And even if you aren't producing young of your own, your younger brothers and sisters are still very closely related to you, with siblings being as closely related to you as your own children are genetically, meaning it is a productive manner of passing on your genes even if you aren't doing the passing yourself yet. Though, how often or when your young disperse depends on both the more specific behavior each species exhibits and the amount of food in the area, with this becoming more untenable in areas with comparatively less food. The Ethiopian wolf is one of the rarest canids in the world, being endemic to the alpine grasslands and plateaus of 7 isolated mountain ranges in central Ethiopia. They're medium-sized canids, weighing between 11 to 19 kilograms or 24 to 43 pounds. These majestic mountaineers sport a beautiful coat of rusty reddish fur with white spots and a lighter undercoat, perfect for keeping them warm in the Ethiopian highlands. They're rodent hunting specialists and primarily hunt one species, the giant root rat, or big-headed African mole rat, but will feed on other small mammals including Blix grass rats, black-clawed brushford rats, Ethiopian highland hares, Ethiopian fly rats, and yellow-spotted brushford rats. Ethiopian wolves have also been seen drinking nectar from flowers, with researchers even positing that they may be the first known predator that serves as a pollinator. They possess long legs, perfect for pouncing on critters emerging from their burrows, and spaced-out teeth that help in grabbing the rodents they hunt. Ethiopian wolves are highly social, living in tight-knit packs, but actually hunt alone as the mole rats they hunt don't exactly require the coordinated group efforts larger prey would require. These wolves are currently listed as endangered by the IUCN, with under 200 mature individuals left on Earth, and no captive populations as they don't do particularly well in captivity. Ethiopian wolves are most threatened by habitat destruction, disease, and interbreeding with domestic dogs, robbing them of their genomic purity. The golden jackal, not closely related to the 2 African jackal species because of course not, can be found in many different habitats throughout Eurasia, from southeastern Europe through the Middle East and the Indian subcontinent, all the way to Southeast Asia. Their range in Europe is actually expanding into Western and Northern Europe, mirroring the spread of coyotes throughout North America over the last few centuries due to the extirpation of wolves, though milder winters caused by climate change also seem to be aiding the jackals in their spread. They're similar to the gray wolf in general appearance and description, only much smaller, weighing between 6 to 14 kilograms or 13 to 31 pounds. As the name suggests, they sport a coat of golden fur with seasonal variation and secondary coloration. Golden jackals are opportunistic omnivores. They have been observed feeding on rodents, reptiles, birds, fruit, fish, vegetables, other small mammals, and much more. They most often live in pairs that forage and rest together, with any other members of these packs being their older offspring. The African golden wolf is found in the grasslands, savannas, deserts, and mountainous regions of northern Africa, from Morocco down to Somalia and Kenya. While once classified as an African variant of the golden jackal, genetic analysis in the 2010s showed that they're actually closer to gray wolves and coyotes, leading to their modern classification as a distinct species. They're rather small, weighing between 7 to 15 kilograms or 15 to 33 pounds. They are more omnivorous compared to other members of Canis, feeding on a variety of food items including hares, insects, cane rats, francolins, lizards, ground squirrels, snakes, small ungulates, bustards, carrion, fruit, and human garbage. African golden wolves have flexible social habits, with the basic social unit being a breeding pair along with any offspring from previous litters that stay around to act as helpers in raising the pair's current offspring. These wolves live in dens, often abandoned aardvark or warthog burrows that they then modify. These cathemeral predators most often hunt alone, but can hunt in pairs or small packs, allowing them to target larger prey like young antelope more successfully. African golden wolves are extremely territorial, with the dominant pair patrolling their territory together and aggressively repelling intruders. The coyote, or coyote, was once found in the grasslands and deserts of North and Western North America. But the extermination of larger predators like gray wolves and cougars that kept them in check, both directly and through the landscape of fear, have allowed them to spread throughout the rest of North America, even in urban areas. Coyotes are moderately sized canids, weighing anywhere between 7 to 20 kilograms or 15 to 44 pounds, being the predominant mesopredator wherever they are. Granted that the ecosystem is still somewhat intact and they haven't become the top predator by the extirpation of the top order carnivores that used to live there. They are primarily carnivorous, with a diet composed mainly of deer, rabbits, hares, rodents, birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and invertebrates, occasionally also eating fruits, vegetables, and grasses when available, filling a similar role to the golden jackals in Eurasia. Not as social as the gray wolf, coyotes normally live in small family groups as they don't need large packs to take down larger prey as gray wolves do. Coyotes often hunt in a similar manner to foxes, using a technique known as mousing, where they use those big ears and keen hearing to listen for prey under cover and then pounce on it. They also stalk larger prey, like squirrels, and then chase them down before they can get to safety. Coyotes can also form mutualistic hunting partnerships with American badgers, with badgers digging prey out of their burrows, and coyotes running down anything able to escape the badgers. Where this differs from other commensal relationships is how these two act when not hunting, with some pairs showing affection towards one another in what may border friendship, though I must say it's important not to anthropomorphize, ascribe human attributes to non-human entities or items, animals, as this can have negative consequences for animal welfare and species conservation, even if they look like they'd pop down the local and have a couple pints with the lads. North America is a place where a lot of interbreeding between canid species takes place, as coyotes have hybridized with wolves to varying degrees. While this likely happened a lot less in the past, seeing as gray wolves act as top-down regulators of coyote populations through interference competition, the extirpation of gray wolves from much of eastern North America over the last 400 years have caused the last few wolves to become a little desperate, creating what are referred to as coy wolves or wolfotes. Wolf-coyote hybridization has increased significantly over the last century, creating the eastern coyote that may have first appeared in the Great Lakes region as western coyotes moved east into areas where both gray and Algonquin wolves had mostly been extirpated, allowing these coyotes to mix with remnant wolf populations. These hybrids are larger and hold more extensive territories than western coyotes. Coyotes are also able to hybridize with domestic dogs, creating coy dogs or dogotes, with mixing events happening before European colonization of the Americas, as melanistic coyotes inherited their coat colors from dogs brought with people over the Bering Land Bridge over 10,000 years ago. Golden jackals will also interbreed with domestic dogs, though this is not as extensive or well documented as it is in coyotes. A story of taxonomic turmoil. The red wolf once had an extensive range across the forests, swamps, coastal prairies, and wetlands throughout the southeastern United States. But these wolves now have one of the smallest, if not the smallest range of any canid, only being found in around 1.7 million acres of the Albemarle Pamlico Peninsula of North Carolina across 5 counties, with this range including 3 national wildlife refuges, a U.S. Air Force bombing range, and shockingly enough for a large predator, a lot of privately owned land. While sometimes being considered a subspecies of gray wolf, it is now considered its own species, with 2 main theories to explain its origins. It is either a relatively recent hybrid between gray wolves and coyotes, or a much more distinct ancient species that evolved in North America before gray wolves and coyotes or their ancestors made their way over the Bering Land Bridge after evolving in Eurasia during the last ice age. Adding surface-level credence to the theory of relatively recent hybridization, they are intermediate in size between coyotes and gray wolves, weighing between 20 to 39 kilograms or 44 to 85 pounds. They possess a distinctive reddish-tawny coat that gives them their common name. Red wolves feed on small to large mammals like white-tailed deer, rabbits, rodents, raccoons, opossums, and carrion. They are more social than coyotes, but less social than gray wolves, but weirdly enough, their social behaviors are actually more similar to the Ethiopian wolf, where they live in packs but typically hunt either alone or in smaller groups. If it wasn't already painfully obvious, they are currently listed as critically endangered by the IUCN, with between 15 to 30 mature individuals left in the wild as of the most recent estimates. It also doesn't help that this current administration seemingly has a burning hate boner for these wolves in particular, with lax regulation enforcement having led to a population dip after decades of increases, because why protect our national heritage when we can give fossil fuel companies more subsidies? Named after the indigenous group they share their habitat with, the Algonquin wolf, or eastern wolf if you're boring, is native to the forests of the Great Lakes region of the United States and southeastern Canada. They are in a similar state of relative limbo to the red wolf in terms of taxonomic classification, with experts being unable to agree whether they are their own species or not, but we will consider them as their own for this video. These Canadian canids are pretty sizable, weighing between 23 to 45 kilograms or 53 to 100 pounds. Like their cousins in North Carolina, they normally target medium-sized prey like white-tailed deer, beaver, rabbits, rodents, hares, and carrion, but will forage for berries when in season. Socially, Algonquin wolves are even more social than red wolves, but still not to the extent of gray wolves. Packs cooperate while hunting, but don't often target animals much larger than themselves. While not rated by the IUCN, Algonquin wolves are listed as imperiled by NatureServe and are protected under the Canadian Species at Risk Act. The biggest threat they face is human hunting or mortality outside of protected areas, which leads to more of their second biggest threat, the genetic integration with coyotes due to a lack of mates, depressing the numbers of pure Algonquin wolves even more. I also wanted to mention some of the subspecies or populations often classified as gray wolves that some authorities have recognized as distinct species, just as I did last video with the clouded leopard cat of the genus Leopardus. I think it's important to mention these fringe species, as both the red and Algonquin wolf were both once considered subspecies of gray wolf until getting the call up to the species big leagues after decades of taxonomic debate, so these animals may become full entries if I live long enough to remake this video down the line. The 2 subspecies with the strongest case out of this lot are the Himalayan wolf and the Indian wolf, with both having more basal mitochondrial traits compared to other extant groups of gray wolf. Other almost species that are still recognized as distinct subspecies by many sources are the Italian wolf and Iberian wolf of southern Europe, along with the Alexandria Archipelago wolf, British Columbia wolf, and the Vancouver coastal sea wolf, all found in the Pacific Northwest. The gray wolf is the most widespread non-domesticated member of Canis, even after centuries of extirpation, being found throughout the forests, grasslands, mountainous regions, and tundras of Eurasia and North America. Gray wolf's size varies immensely between subspecies and populations, with sizes ranging from the small Arabian wolf, which averages around 18 kilograms or 40 pounds, all the way to the massive northwestern wolf, which averages over 46 kilograms or 100 pounds, with the largest wolf ever recorded weighing 80 kilograms or 175 pounds. While their diet also depends mainly on population, gray wolves are mainly carnivorous. They feed predominantly on larger ungulates, including deer, bovids, and suids, with what each pack targets depending on the size of the pack. They aren't limited to larger prey either, also feeding on rodents, lagomorphs, smaller carnivorans, birds, small reptiles, amphibians, and carrion. Wolves are nocturnal hunters that specialize in taking vulnerable individuals of large prey, like the young, sick, or elderly. Packs of wolves are cursorial hunters that try and isolate an individual from its group. These dogs on Duracell can sustain speeds of up to 65 kilometers or 40 miles per hour for up to 20 minutes in an attempt to chase prey into exhaustion, trying to slow it down by biting and nipping at its hindquarters until it can be brought down. While they are often depicted as taking livestock, often a wolf in sheep's clothing perhaps, they only do this under dire circumstances when other food sources are unavailable, often due to human activity. Gray wolves are extremely social pack animals that live in nuclear families made up of a breeding pair that mate for life and their offspring, though different packs can join together during periods of prey abundance. Each pack has a complex hierarchy that focuses on collaboration in everything from hunting to the rearing of pups. On the topic of wolves, and seeing as I won't get a chance to get this off for a while, let's set the record straight with some myths that have grown and have affected how people think in some of the stupidest ways I've ever seen, those being the alpha wolf and the lone wolf. The term alpha being associated with wolves, which those manosphere red-pilled knuckle-dragging morons often do to try and give you garbage life advice that will make you miserable, is a myth, as it originated from a study of unrelated captive wolves. Actual wild wolf packs are led by a breeding pair, with the rest of the pack generally being their offspring, not dominant dictators who fought their way through the ranks to get to the top. Aggressive hierarchy struggles for leadership are extremely rare in natural family groups. Wolves communicate using sound, body posture, scent, touch, and taste, with such complex social behavior being used to prevent conflict wherever possible. It's almost like cooperation is the entire reason wolves live in packs and are successful to begin with. Speaking of packs, the term lone wolf is stupid too. The term has come to mean a person who prefers to work or live alone, but this is something a gray wolf never wants to be. The only time when a wolf is alone is when it is looking to either create or join a new pack, with it hopefully being temporary. While there are many reasons for wolves to disperse, it is never optimal for these animals to live alone. Wolves don't even howl at the moon either. They are nocturnal animals that need to communicate with the pack or other wolves, only raising their head to project sound further, regardless of any big rock in the sky. I think some of y'all need to get it through your thick skulls that animals don't try to be cool. They do what they can in order to survive, as they have evolved for millions of years in order to get to this point. Show them respect and think before you open your mouth. Do some research, it'll do you some good. Like last episode, you may think I've miscounted. I can even hear what you're thinking. Where's the 8th species, you silly idiot? But the last member of Canis is important enough to our own story as humans to get their own segment to end the video. The last of the 39 species of canid we'll be discussing in depth today is Canis familiaris, the domestic dog. Compared to the domestication of the cat, the story of dog domestication is a much longer and more confusing saga, with this video having a 100% chance of becoming outdated in the near future as new discoveries are made. But that doesn't mean we won't give her the old college try. The ancestors of domestic dogs are thought to have first diverged from a now extinct population of wolves before the last glacial maximum, between 40,000 to 27,000 years ago. This makes dogs the first species humans domesticated, with them predating the next domesticated species and even agriculture in general by at least 10,000 years. Much of the more specific details regarding early dog domestication are still hotly debated. Whether dogs were domesticated once in a single region and then spread, or multiple domestication events occurred in different places over a period of a few thousand years, is highly contested. More importantly, how dogs were domesticated is also up in the air. Early domestication may have mirrored that of the cat, with wolves self-domesticating themselves, being attracted to human camps by the food waste they produced. Though it can't be ruled out that dog domestication was a more conscious effort by humans, with wolf dens being raided and pups being taken and raised by humans instead. Though this is based on behavior of modern wolves, as adult wolves are extremely hard to tame and generally want nothing to do with humans. Either way, canids are still much easier to domesticate than cats, as wolves are already much more social animals that depend on each other for survival, in this case just trading a pack of other wolves for a pack of humans. This partnership blossomed with social selection, as the more docile wolves received food, while the humans gained aid in hunting and protection from their canid clanmates. The earliest evidence of domestic dogs in the fossil record is actually also a subject of debate, with some fossils of dog-like canids from Siberia and Belgium being dated to around 33,000 years and 36,000 years old respectively. But I use the term dog-like canids for a reason when describing these guys. They are recognized as incipient dogs, which are ancient transitional fossils that exhibit both wolf and dog-like characteristics. These may even represent early, possibly interrupted domestication attempts. Dog fossils that are indisputably dog fossils begin to appear more commonly across Eurasia between 18,000 to 14,000 years ago. But the most indisputable of them all is the Bonn Oberkassel dog, with this late Paleolithic pooch being buried alongside two humans in Germany dating back to around 14,000 years ago. What cements the fact that this animal was a domestic dog even more is the osteoarthritis and signs of poor oral health this skeleton exhibits, indicating this dog survived an infection with canine distemper as a puppy, something nigh impossible without human assistance. Once domesticated though, dogs were taken with humans wherever they went, allowing dogs to travel to the ends of the earth. Along the way of this journey, humans also may have created one of the most famous canids, that being the dingo, one of the few placental mammals considered native to Australia. How dingoes got to Oceania is a bit of a mystery, with the oldest known fossils dating back to 3,500 years, but estimated arrivals of around 12,000 years have also been given. During the last ice age, sea levels were much lower than they are now, with most of that water being locked away in glaciers, with land masses being much closer together. However, while closer, the landmass as a whole was still disconnected from the rest of the world, making it more likely that dingoes were either brought directly or indirectly by humans with boats. This is supported by phylogenetic studies, placing dingoes in a clade of domestic dog with the New Guinea singing dog rather than as their own species or as a subspecies of grey wolf, both of which were once considered by different sources. Regardless of where or how, dogs have developed a suite of general physical and behavioral adaptations over thousands of years that have made it easier to live alongside us. Along with the more common physical characteristics brought on via domestication syndrome like smaller brains, smaller jaws, shorter muzzles, floppier ears, curlier tails, and more varied coat colors, the most fascinating adaptation is the alteration of facial musculature. Dogs have developed a specific muscle above the eye, known as the levator anguli oculi medialis, or LOME for short, that allows them to raise their inner eyebrow and create the puppy dog eye expression that makes dogs so good at manipulating humans, with this muscle being either underdeveloped or entirely absent in wolves. But these changes aren't just skin deep, as dogs have also developed many internal adaptations that have only been discovered relatively recently. Chief among them are digestive adaptations. Dogs possess a much higher capacity to digest starch, with dogs producing more of the digestive enzyme amylase that better allow them to make use of both human food and the waste that the production of said food produces. Domestication also results in many behavioral changes that also fall under the umbrella of domestication syndrome that dogs also generally exhibit, like increased tameness, reduced fear and aggression towards humans, and generally enhanced social tolerance. But for dogs, it runs much deeper than that. Dogs can interpret gestures, like pointing, vocal tones, body language, like gaze direction, and read emotions of their human companions. They communicate differently than wolves as well, with dogs barking more frequently compared to howling. Dogs also often retain more puppy-like behaviors like playfulness and curiosity into adulthood in an evolutionary phenomenon known as neoteny, where organisms retain juvenile characteristics into adulthood. Though these changes make it easier to live alongside humans, it also increases their dependency on humans to the point that dogs can struggle to return to a wild existence for at least the first few generations. Dogs are some of the most morphologically diverse animals alive today, with over 450 recognized breeds, but most of them first appeared relatively recently. Even with this diversity, dogs are still all subsumed under the same species as, even if the largest breed outweighed the smallest by roughly 10 to 40 times, They can all still interbreed with each other and produce fertile offspring. Dogs have remained relatively wolf-like for most of their existence since their domestication. They only really began to diversify during the Victorian era, with most breeds being derived from a small number of founders within the last 200 years by the British. Most dog breeds were first bred for various working roles, including guarding, herding, pulling, as in sled dogs, hunting, and other forms of service. But this ideology has changed in recent years as modern breeding is more focused on aesthetic breed standards, as dogs are seen more as companions over time. This prioritization of aesthetic for vanity dog shows has become a metaphorical cancer for many breeds of dogs, as traits considered cute are selected for and become more exaggerated over time, which leads to genetic bottlenecking, inbreeding, and the subsequent chronic health conditions that generations of inbreeding cause. I mean, if you look at what some breeds looked like 100 years ago compared to now, you can definitely see some of the more unadvantageous traits becoming more pronounced by varying degrees. Some breeds, mainly the brachycephalic or flat-faced dogs, actually have trouble giving birth naturally now, requiring human assistance as their heads are now often too large to pass through the birth canal, often requiring an emergency C-section. I personally don't think that any creatures that can't properly function at some of the most fundamentally important tasks a species has should be forced to make more because another species finds them cute, especially if that other species now understands the science behind what is happening but still chooses to seemingly ignore it. But that's just me, I guess. With anywhere between 700 million and 1 billion domestic dogs estimated to be alive today, to say they took over the world is a vast understatement. Just like domestic cats, domestic dogs can become an incredibly destructive invasive species if allowed free rein over the places they colonize with their human companions. While it does take slightly longer for feral dogs to establish a foothold in an area, their effect once established cannot be understated, though their effect hasn't been nearly as destructive as cats. Though they still have caused the extinction of at least 12 species, with likely more unknown, unfortunately lost to the sands of time. That being said, this comparative lack of impact is due to stray and feral dogs being considered more dangerous to humans than cats, causing much more effort to be put into their control through various methods. Think about how differently people react to a stray cat compared to a stray dog, even though they are both potentially vermin and a tremendous detriment to the ecosystems they shouldn't actually be found in. But I guess that reaction is more justifiable, as dogs cause anywhere between 25,000 to 40,000 deaths per year, making them the third deadliest animal on Earth after mosquitoes and snakes. These deaths can be attributed to the transmission of rabies in developing countries, as developed countries rarely have rabies outbreaks, as dogs are kept on a more metaphorically tighter leash. The transmission of disease is also a threat to all the wild species covered in this video, with this problem made even worse by habitat destruction, bringing domestic dogs even closer to these critical canid corridors, making it even more likely that these beautiful animals will not survive for the next generation to enjoy. I would like to thank each and every one of you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new. This video was actual torture to write, but it's finally here and I hope it was worth the wait. Probably wasn't though. I wanted to make sure that everything in this video was as good as I could have made it, so I can actually leave on a banger if this video doesn't do well. I'll keep this brief so you don't have to sit here any longer, seeing as this video has already been a long marathon of me yapping, but thank you again for watching. I hope to see you all again in 2027 with my next video. See ya!